Hello, my loves, and welcome back to the channel. I'm so delighted to have you here with me. I'm your host, Amy Diamond, and this week on the channel, I have something very special for you. About a month and a half ago, I did a live recording called The $1 Million Nervous System on my LinkedIn page. Now, what came through that recording was so incredibly powerful, I've decided to turn it into a two-part YouTube series. Today is part one of that series. Here's what you're going to learn on the inside of today's video. What happens in our bodies when our nervous system gets activated? How your conscious mind is always the slowest part of your body to respond, even though we don't think it is. How do we actually expand our capacity to receive? How do we condition our brain to allow for the expanded states? And the most important thing I could ever tell an entrepreneur. All of that is packed into today's video, so let's get into it, shall we? My original interview was supposed to be me sitting down with the host, and we were going to talk about the $1 Million Nervous System and effectively have a deep conversation about how do we expand our capacity to receive. So I'm going to talk about that still today, and we're definitely going to cover a few things that are related to that today. Let's just land in the room. Right now that we're here, hello. I want to, before I go into like, hey, let's talk about how to expand your capacity. I'm a firm believer that things happen in the timing they are meant to happen, very much on purpose. So when the interview today didn't work out, I had a feeling about it, right? Like I was not pleased with how things kind of all came together. It just did. And it's nobody's at blame. I'm not like, right. But I had feelings about it, and it's kind of coming on top of some other feelings that I've been having this week. In fact, yesterday I had the pleasure to go to a friend's house who has a newborn, and I spent all afternoon with her just trying to help out with the baby and help out with her other two kids and just give her some assistance in that space. And when there was a quiet moment that just my friend and I could sit and have a conversation, she was asking me how things were going. I said, I was feeling kind of blue before I got here today, if I'm being very honest. I feel like things haven't been going as well as I'd like, and I just have been feeling some kind of a way. Having the gift of being able to actually go spend time with my friend and just, I mean, first of all, cuddling brand new babies, I'd do that all day, I feel like, is really wonderful. But to be able to offer my support in a completely different avenue that is still helping someone in their journey is a really beautiful thing, and a nice disconnect from the consistent and kind of constant pressure to build a business. So today's topic is going to very likely be much more resonant for folks who have a business, who are entrepreneurs, just because of how we're going to talk about expanding our capacity to receive. When we feel some kind of way, and then we have an experience that pops up that sort of activates our nervous system, it is very natural, definitely I felt that way for a moment today, that we just want to like close the laptop, burn it all down, walk away, and be like, I'm leaving. I quit all of this. This is not worth it. So there's a billion different ways to respond to that energy. Sometimes the most useful way to respond is actually to like close your laptop and close everything down and like walk away and do something completely different for the day. I was very, very tempted to do that today, I got to tell you. But the other thing is the week has been exceedingly busy. There is a huge amount of stuff that's happening right now. And so I was very cognizant of the fact that like I actually need to be in the office getting some things done today because the list is only getting longer, right? So with that in mind, I was like, okay, so walking away is not an option today. Fine. So I'm going to, for a little while, be dragging these not so great feelings along with me as I attempt to keep doing something productive with my time. So, on my list today, outside of the interview that was supposed to happen today, was to edit a YouTube video. By the way, if you didn't know, I have a YouTube channel. There's new content that lands there every Saturday. Highly worth the watch. If I say so myself, you can find me at XO Amy Diamond on YouTube. So I was sitting down today with this video and getting it all edited up, and like more things weren't quite working. And I was like, something needs to go easier today because I'm not happy about it. This is a microcosm example of what happens when we are building new expansive boundaries, okay? When we are doing something that's like comfortable and that everything's working and everything's fine, we don't have to regulate our nervous system. We don't need to like consciously make the decision of like, I'm going to just like choose to be calm. It's still going to be okay. It's all going to work out, right? We don't need to do that. But when we are at the edge of our boundaries, when we're at the edge of what feels comfortable, when we're building something, when we're growing something, when we are doing a whole pile of things that are not our, how do I say this? They're not what we would do just like for funsies, right? Like there is no part of me that's like, it sounds like a really good time. I would love to just spend an hour editing a video. That sounds like a really good time. Like I don't mind doing it. I enjoy getting content out into amazing people's worlds like yourself. But like, if I had $1 billion in the bank and never ever somehow could like never work again, I could only like do things that were fun and fancy free and whatever, probably I wouldn't sit down and be editing a video, right? That's just probably not what I would be doing. So when we are in these spaces where we have tasks that support our business, that support our growth, that support our visibility, but we are feeling activated, right? Something has happened that has activated us, that has activated our nervous system. Now, very quick, let me talk about what you're probably aware of what an activated nervous system feels like to you. But for myself, it feels like the best way I can describe it is almost like a chemical. It feels like this sort of toxic chemical sort of like spread out inside my sort of between the bottom part of my ribs and like the bottom part of my collarbone in this. I can't lean far enough back, but like in this section, okay, it feels like this sort of toxic jolt that comes out, and it's like this internal network. So I'm very aware of like, where does my nervous system reside in my body? Because I feel it when it gets activated. Yours may resonate differently, like how it feels in your body, but right? Okay, so when something happens that makes your fifis feel not good, that makes you go, oh, really? I'm gonna drop something on you, right? So when that happens and we are in this space of building, of growing, of constantly pushing up against the boundaries of what feels comfortable and known and okay for us, our initial reaction, this is what's going on, okay? Your nervous system gets activated, and when that happens, we immediately want to seek something that is comforting, because comforting will help deactivate our nervous system. This is why if you've been on, actually, it doesn't even matter. You don't have to be on any kind of health journey or like a weight release journey, but if you have a very common but slightly upside down relationship with food where you turn to food for comfort in times of stress, in times of struggle, in times of like low feelings. That's why when everything feels fine and all of a sudden you get activated in some way, and then like a minute later, you just are like, I really want to just have some chips, or I want to have some cookies, or I don't know, like I just want to like hide under a blanket with popcorn and watch a movie, right? What is happening is that your body is sending your brain signals that your conscious mind is reading that says, we don't want to be feeling this activated state. I don't like the word negative, but we'll use it for the clarity for the conversation. It's a negative experience. How do we get out of this? Well, we know that cookies are comforting. They're general. Ooh, hello. Fireworks, everybody. I keep forgetting that I have these things on my screen. So we have these experiences from when we are kids, right? That perhaps, we got cookies, I don't know, when things were sad or whatever. And so they were joyful things for us. So they are markers of comfort. Everybody has their own examples of like how things feel comforting, but these are sort of, I'd say, more common for most of us. So hopefully you can relate. So your body is trying to, it's communicating to your brain. Your nervous system and your brain are always in communication. Okay? What it is doing is that your nervous system moves much faster than your conscious thinking does. Your conscious thinking is actually probably one of the slower systems of your body. So your nervous system immediately communicates to your brain, and that triggers a whole set of actions or reactions. To give you an example, we're building a new cabin, and I've been managing the project. I was up at the site a couple days ago, and we have a sump pump in the basement, and the sump pump pipe comes out the side of the wall, and I was standing next to, basically, like, if I'm standing here, the pipe would have been like right here. Okay, so like anyway, the point is the pipe went off. This giant geyser of water comes shooting out of the wall. I had no idea that this is going to happen. Had I been 6 inches to the right and not moved, I would have been soaked. Before having any kind of conscious awareness of what was going on, my brain, and then when I replay it back, I can see it almost in slow motion. It heard the noise. There was something that said, "Oh my gosh, there's water coming through that pipe. Jump to your left." So my body responded long before my conscious brain was aware of what was going on. So now I'm like, I jumped on this guy that was standing beside me, and I was like, "I'm so sorry," but jumped out of the way of the water. That is what our nervous system does. It immediately creates action. It gets us to move, and it communicates to our brain constantly. Okay, so coming back to what this looks like in terms of how are we expanding our nervous system in order to expand our capacity to receive. When we are building a business, when we are growing a business, when we are pushing forward in our career, when we are doing something in pursuit of a dream, of a desire, and it is bringing us right up to the edge of our boundaries, okay? It is going to have moments that are going to activate your nervous system. A very common example for a lot of entrepreneurs, especially what I'll say like newer entrepreneurs who aren't maybe social media savvy, is the moment of like having to go live on, for example, LinkedIn, right? Or live on Instagram or live on TikTok or whatever. Some version of being in a live container where people can see us in real time. It's not like we're recording a video and we can edit it up, although there are lots of folks who also really struggle emotionally and from the nervous system side with recording videos. Because the reason that particular example causes us to feel a certain way, it is rooted into our oldest brain that we want to not stand out, because standing out from the pack means that we are at risk in some way. So way back when, our like way back when ancestors, okay, like very, very early Homo sapiens, they have a lot of our automated responses, the constant scanning for scarcity, the quicker reaction to fear headlines versus joy headlines. The news has definitely activated on this. That is all based on the very old programming from our very long time ago ancestors. Because if you didn't respond in a certain way, you did. And that was the end of your line, right? So then that characteristic or that lack of response would essentially, over time, be kind of weeded out of the population. So coming back to today, you're building your business. You're like, why am I freaking out? It's just a video. What's the worst that could happen? Our brain's like, oh, I could tell you the worst that could happen. And it goes to work and it says, people could hate on you. People could like say all these things about you. What are they going to think about you? What are your family and friends going to think about you? And as your brain does this, you'll notice that your nervous system reacts. The communication goes both ways. So your brain can go to work saying thoughts and saying, giving all kinds of ideas and spinning stories that will cause your body to feel a certain way. Okay. And your body can notice things outside of it and have this reaction that will then feed up into your brain, which will set your brain to work telling stories about what was going on. All right. It's a very funny kind of like constant in and out cycle. Like they're continuously talking to themselves. So, how do we actually get, I don't want to say get past, because we never get past and we don't want to. We actually need our brain and our nervous system to have this like instantaneous communication I mean, it's way too many reasons to go into here. So we don't want to get past it. We don't want to be like, how do I just disconnect my nervous system? Or how do I stop my brain from thinking? That's not what we're after. What we are after is conditioning our nervous system, conditioning our brain to understand and allow for these expanded states. So, how do we do that? I'm going to do my best to give you a few different examples, and we're absolutely going to talk about money and income because that's the heart of the work that I do. Let's start, though, first with some of the examples that I talked about. So, you're building a business, you're building your visibility, you're building your brand. How do you begin to condition your brain and your body that it's okay, it's safe, and it could even be enjoyable for you to do, for example, a live stream or to record a video that you put out somewhere on a social media page or on YouTube or whatever? Well, there is something to be said for a little bit of like just doing it. There's a number of tools that you can employ at the beginning. Okay. So a couple of things to think about. Maybe more than a couple. It might be a few. So first of all, if you're really, really nervous about it, it can be helpful to like book the time for whatever it is into your calendar. Okay. So like if you are going to do a live stream, now this can also help with promotion. If you're going to do a live stream, then you book it into your calendar. You tell people about when this live stream is happening so that hopefully people can come join you inside the live stream, right? If you're recording a video where you're going to edit it later and put it on YouTube or wherever, book it into your calendar. That's the first thing. The second thing is show up. Now, I realize that sounds kind of silly. However, I have seen so many people where they book this thing into their calendar and then like, oh darn, something came up and I just can't come, or I don't really feel like doing it today, or my energy's really low and I don't want to have that on there, or my hair looks a mess, or I don't know, like there's something that constantly comes up. So there are circumstances that, yes, are going to prevent you from doing something, right? Like, for example, no matter how much I want to honor my word to having been on LinkedIn today to do this live stream with you at noon, if like, I don't know, the house was burning down, I'm not going to be like, hang on, I'll be right back. I'll be back. I got a live stream that I got to do and go find a coffee shop. Like, obviously I need to deal with the house that's on fire, right? If you have children and like something critical comes up with your kids, then you need to go respond to those things. But notice if it keeps happening over and over again. So, and then the big thing is the main culprit for lots of people is that we just create a story of why we can't do that thing that we were nervous to do when we decided to do it. When we honor our word, this is actually one of the most important things that I can communicate to entrepreneurs and leaders is to honor your word to yourself. It is very easy, very common, women in particular do this, to break our word with ourselves. And women in particular do this mostly or primarily in the arena where we are foregoing our agreement to ourselves in order to satisfy someone outside of ourselves. So, for example, let's say that you had, again, I'm just going to stay with the live stream example. Let's say you had a live stream planned, but your, I don't know, friend reaches out and says, "Hey, I really could use a talk. Can you, come over to my place, or do you have 20 minutes and I can talk to you on the phone?" And you're like, "Well, actually, I need to be on a live stream in 5 minutes." But our conditioning says that we want to be a good friend, that we want to support the people that we love. So we will like forego the agreement with ourselves that says, I was going to show up at this time and do this thing in deference to helping out this other person. Okay. That's just one of the examples. We could spend days on this. What happens is what we are doing, and our brain is recording all of this, is we are continually putting ourselves back from everybody else, and we are conditioning our brains, okay, and therefore conditioning our nervous system to believe that our word to ourselves is not to be trusted. Now, that sounds really big, and it is. So when we make an agreement with ourselves, when we commit to doing something, when we, put something in our calendar or whatever, we want to make sure that with all reasonable effort, we actually honor that commitment. Now, I talk about this often on Instagram, just in my stories, where if I have in my calendar or planned in my day that I wanted to do a workout or I wanted to go for a run, and something happens that, the day of, I just know that, doing a big workout or going for a run isn't going to work. What I have conditioned myself to understand is that it's not the specific kind of workout that is the most important thing. The most important thing is honoring my word to myself. So the intention was to move my body. That is the word, that's the commitment that I made to myself. I said, I'm going to move my body, and I had decided that it was going to be in this particular way. Well, if the actual intent is simply to move my body, I can do that in different ways. So perhaps I had planned for a run, but today I have like no energy, or it's like 40 degrees outside or something, it's pouring rain or something, whatever. Like there's some reason that I just cannot get it up to go for a run. I can still honor that intent by going for a walk, or doing a nice like stretchy long yoga session or something. The point is that the commitment to myself, that agreement, is still upheld. When we do this, and it takes practice a little bit at a time, okay? When we do this, we are teaching and conditioning our brain and our nervous system that our word is to be trusted. This is important to do this in the small moments, because as we expand our reach, as we expand our commitments, as we expand the things that we are calling in, that trust that we've built with ourselves is going to be the thing that helps us move through these next level spaces. So, I don't know, 2, 3 years ago, maybe more. Who knows what time it is anymore, but some amount of time ago, if something like what had happened today happened as it related to having this interview, past Amy would go, well, okay, I guess that's just, I told people that I'd be here then, but well, it's not working out. So I'm just not going to honor the agreement. And I would have all kinds of reasons as to why I couldn't be there. Today, Amy has built that continual conditioning that says, listen, we made this commitment to our audience. We're still going to show up. It may not have the reach that we initially hoped. It may not have the what we call legs, meaning that it won't go as far out into the world as we had hoped, especially, partnering with someone and partnering with their podcast and being able to inform and excite their audience in that way. So it's not going to have that impact potentially. However, it's still important to me to honor my word and honor my commitment. And so I will just do so, right? And we'll just roll with the space that we're in. When we do these things, what happens is that as our business grows, as our career grows, you're going to notice that it's going to be easier for you to have some clear boundaries and to stay honoring the commitments that you've made. So I think I've brushed over that point fairly in depth. Okay. So if you have any further questions, reach out to me and ask me a question afterwards, and I can always send you a response to give you a bit more clarity. I hope you enjoyed that video. I'm so glad that I got to share this with you. Next week, I'll be dropping part 2 of this series, and I'll tell you more about what's going to be inside there, but we are definitely going to keep expanding. How do we actually step into the $1 million nervous system? Thank you so much for watching today. If you liked today's video, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. That helps us keep making these videos and getting them out into the hands of amazing people like you. Until then, see you next week. Bye for now.